You want to pass the sheet around, or do you? Okay, we're passing a sign-in sheet around. If you would please sign in and give us your address, we would appreciate it. And if you would identify yourself when you get up to speak, let us know where you're at, give us your address, and try to keep your comments brief because we have a lot of people here that I'm sure want to weigh in on the subject tonight. I'm assuming most everybody's here because of the marijuana cultivation that's going on. So I'd just like to go ahead and proceed, and we could start right in the first row if you'd like to.
Joanne Norman, 40330 West Road. Where exactly did they want to put marijuana place? It was in the paper that they said they couldn't do it because they never notified all of us trustees, you know, and the people in the township and all that. Where exactly
this is going
did
in
they
on
want
Vermont Street.
On Vermont Street.
Yes,
Okay.
okay.
I get from
Can I stand up? I'm glad to see you all here. I'm from the public. I have no horse or no dog in this fight whatsoever. But I'll tell you what, I've been attending these meetings here for the last 2.5 years. I've never seen anybody come but me. And they publicized what they were going to do. They discussed it. They had it in the paper. Yes, they did. They had an email or Facebook and like that. They said what they were going to do, but nobody ever reads it. I came to meetings. They discussed it. When it went to the zoning, I went to the zoning meetings over it. Never saw anybody there, but I'm glad to see people are going to participate now in this, you know, for a discussion. But where were you when they had it over discussion? Because I was here. That's all I got to say on this. But I'm glad to see people. I wish you all would come. I feel lonely. I'm the only one here from the public. By the way, I live at 16021 Diagonal Road, LaGrange Township.
Yes, something to say.
Al Morrison, 19018 Vermont. I just want to ask you a question. When was it on Facebook? I didn't see it. I've been following it for a while.
Well, Roberta, week before you always advertise that stuff?
Oh, I know that.
I had to ask them because they put it on. I just read it.
Is it in public record anywhere that it was advertised? Is there any documentation anywhere? No, I'm just asking, was it ran in the rural urban? Because clearly an ad in the rural urban gets some attention.
Yeah, that's where we saw it.
Am I able to say something?
Well, are you done, sir?
Well,
we're trying to move through in an orderly fashion to give everybody an opportunity to speak.
I just came here tonight to hear what's going on. I'm not necessarily going to take a side. It's something that is said disturbs me. I do have some questions, but I'd like to hear what other people say first, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Move down the line, Miss. Nothing? I pass. Okay. Continue right along. It's down to Ryan, it looks like.
All right, thanks everybody for coming. My name is Ryan Smith from Vermont Street. I would like to thank everybody for coming to tonight's meeting. Whether you are for or against marijuana being grown in our township, I believe it is important for the township residents to be made aware of something so controversial to potentially moving into the residential area of LaGrange Township. These types of meetings with active discussion should have taken place long before a few people got to decide the fate of a marijuana facility being built in a residentially zoned area, which can affect our homes, children, safety, and environment. I would like to quickly go over some of the key information for all the residents tonight attending tonight's meeting. First, LaGrange Township failed to pass an ordinance to prohibit marijuana businesses in the township. They've also failed to enforce zoning regulations to prohibit these businesses in a zoned residential agricultural area. Number two, marijuana cultivation is not deemed agriculture by the Ohio Department of Agriculture or the Ohio Medical Control Program of Ohio. Marijuana is still illegal at a federal level. Ohio Revised Code 3796.29 gives the township the power to ban these controversial marijuana businesses at any given time, including now. The surrounding townships of Grafton, Penfield, Carlisle have all banned these marijuana businesses, so why hasn't LaGrange? The financial benefit to the township is very small, only benefiting from the increase in property value from the building of the parcel. The township failed to properly notify the residents of these marijuana operations. There was never a public meeting to hear both sides of the argument. It was only briefly discussed in the minutes that could be read in the World Urban on June 19th and July 17th of 2017. At the time, both of these times, the discussion was tabled. If the township doesn't include their residents in a discussion and ban marijuana cultivation, there is nothing to keep these from showing up in a residential area in LaGrange Township near you, Diagonal, Biggs, Wheeler, any number of roads. These operations have shown to decrease property value in states such as Colorado and California, where it has been grown for some time. The odor from these operations has resulted in multiple lawsuits from its residents. Although the area where the building may be secure, it is public information and will be a prime target for drug seekers, criminals, and will place the residents at an increased risk of crime. I now ask for the township officials to remove their personal biases and to look at the facts of this debate and to listen to their residents' concerns who elected you. It is your obligation to do what is best for our township's residents. The decision to allow these facilities in our area seem to be pushed through very quietly to avoid the controversy by not allowing the residents to know the whole story. Mrs. Canfield and possibly more feel that the residents should just accept these facilities and learn to deal with them if it can just benefit one child who has epilepsy. The reality is this is not a debate about medical marijuana. As shown from the last meeting, from a mother inquiring about obtaining oil from Mr. Farkas for her child. She can't buy it from him and would have to go to a dispensary in some other city anyways, so why would we want this in our township? This is a debate as to why residents were not properly notified. I mean, after all, there are formal hearings for such things as many variance zoning issues, home occupation permits, so why not a marijuana business? I'm sure multiple people have had to go through these processes for things much more minor than a commercial business that can expand from 3,000 to 9,000 square feet being allowed in a residential area. Why? And why are trustees so resistant to passing an ordinance that would prohibit and limit these number of these businesses? Because the trustees, they are allowed to stop and ban it at any time according to Ohio Revised Code 3796.29. I was told at the last meeting, if it were across the street from me, Ryan, I would learn to love it. It wouldn't bother me, by Mrs. Canfield. This is a statement to make, this is an easy statement to make, seeing that it is not across the street from you, and it won't affect you like it will me with my 3 small children and many other residents in the area. Believe me, I am a compassionate person. I work as a nurse in the trauma intensive care unit for the past 10 years. I have seen things that others can't even begin to comprehend. I have helped save hundreds, if not thousands, of people's lives over my career, some of which are from this community, who have been involved in serious car crashes and accidents. So if anyone knows about compassion, it is me. I risk my own body by being around people with diseases such as HIV and hepatitis and caring for people who are many times violent and aggressive. I have held people's hands and cried as they have died so they were not alone. So of course I don't want any child to struggle with epilepsy. If we were going with her mentality, where does this stop? Do we allow pharmaceutical companies to open businesses in the township's residential area? After all, medicine saves millions. Do we allow someone to open cancer research facilities in our township that may save millions? The answer is of course not. That is why there are business and commercially zoned areas throughout the United States, which is where this business should be located, as the others are in Ohio. However, this is not a debate of medical marijuana, nor is marijuana a proven treatment for epilepsy either. I am quite sure the whole medical marijuana program does not hinge on Mr. Farkas's operation opening, as there are several hundred waiting in line to open their own business in a commercially business zoned area. There are so many variables in this operation. Will doctors accept it? Does it work? Will the federal government shut it down as it is still federally illegal? Will patients not obey the rules and drive while using marijuana, potentially crashing and injuring, killing others? Will Mr. Farkas sell his license for some profit, which may take the proposed community benefit elsewhere? Will lawsuits shut down these businesses as they have in other states? Will Mr. Farkas not be able to open anyways, given that according to his timeline submitted with his application, he's now several months behind schedule? If he's not open by August, he will not receive his license and won't be able to function on September 8, 2018. These are some major hurdles to overcome, so why not just stop it now and avoid these continued issues and legal ramifications that are sure to follow. At the last meeting, Louis Farkas, Mr. Ronald Farkas' son, gave a detailed presentation about the security of the building and how as soon as they are profitable, which we don't know when or if that will be, they plan to do all kinds of wonderful things for the community. While I hope this is the truth, as it could be genuine, the other option is that it was just a section required in the marijuana application and that they were trying to make their business look better by the state community. Time will tell. My question is, when I look over the hierarchy for the company, I see no mention of Louis Farkas on any of the application documents. Is Louis here tonight? Mr. Farkas here? Is it possible since he was at the last meeting presented, to understand more what his role is in the company?
His wife is pregnant. She's gonna have a baby any day now. He's back in Pennsylvania. She's the one on the daughter.
Okay, but he seemed like he had a pretty.
He has a master's degree and he had international agriculture business.
Well, what about Louis? He was the one that presented.
In the interest of continuing through here,
Okay, I have one more point.
Yeah, I would please like to
Yep,
wrap it up.
I'll wrap
We
it
have
up.
Other people here.
So, well, I started thinking after the last meeting why Mr. Louis Farkas wasn't listed for ownership or given any title on the company for the marijuana application. After all, Mr. Ronald Farkas and his daughter and Louis and many others who are less involved in the business were not listed. So why wasn't Louis?
Okay, I appreciate your presentation and your passion for where you're at with
This
this.
is one more thing.
I mean no disrespect, Ryan.
So basically, Louis Farkas is convicted of 6 DUIs, possession of alcohol, sale of alcohol to minors,
Yeah,
theft,
Ryan,
stolen.
that's this online.
So this is the man who is going to be involved with the marijuana business.
You don't bring that in, I'm sorry.
Well, it's kind of relevant when you're selling marijuana.
Ryan?
You can pull it up. I'm a nurse. I don't have it. You can pull them all up.
Brian, I have a question for you. What township do you live in?
Me? I live in Penfield.
And you're here at LaGrange.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify
My
that.
property line is the barrier between Penfield and LaGrange. My dwelling is, correct.
Yeah.
However, I have many people that are family members that do live in LaGrange that would be out here at the water.
Okay, I just heard that.
Okay, I'd like to continue on, please. Thank you, Ryan, for your presentation. Let's try to keep things as brief as we possibly can. Is there someone that's next? Mrs. Poling, would you like to start?
My name is Kathy Poling. I live right across the street. I live from the business and debate here. At the last meeting, I was made to feel kind of like I wasn't a very good citizen, or because I don't come to these meetings. And I told them, I work 70 hours a week. I try, to babysit my grandson 2 times a week. I don't have time. And I was told that everything's on the webpage with all the minutes. Everything that's discussed that's at these meetings on the minutes. So I did my homework and I read through all of last year's minutes. Twice. The first time anything about any of this marijuana cultivation was mentioned was May 22nd. And it was a letter of support to construct and operate a medical marijuana cultivation on Biggs Road. There was an amendment to the letter because it did not state facts as far as the benefits to the township. Everyone voted yes, that they were going to okay this. Every one of you. And then there was a note that there was another letter coming from another resident that will also be submitted. And that's where the discussion ended. Now I was told that there was all kinds of discussion on this. All kinds. The next mention was on 12/11. The discussion was held on concerns about the marijuana cultivation permit issued in the township on Vermont Street by the state. It was noted that that about the restrictions on the building, the high fence, so on and so forth. There was 2 times that it was mentioned in the zoning meeting, which Ryan talked about was June and July, and it was tabled both times. Now, and I read these twice. You guys okayed Biggs Road just in a 15-minute time. Oh yeah, that sounds good. Okay, let's say this is cool. There was never a mention, whoever this other resident was, and when they bought their letter here, there was never no mention in any of the minutes about a discussion okaying his letter. None. Every time there is a permit given in the township, it tells what road it's on and what it's for. Every one. There was never a mention of a permit to Mr. Farkas on Vermont Street. There are 3 times that on 9/11, 9/25, and 10/23 that it says a permit was issued. That was it. Now, how come the other 23 meetings it tells what it's for and what street it's on? It doesn't. So my question is, either you guys have had a whole lot of discussion.
We didn't issue this permit. The state issued his permit.
They issued his permit for a license.
Right.
Right. But he had to get a building permit. He had to get a building permit.
Right.
Right. And
For a barn.
for a barn. Okay. So but it's still not in the minutes anywhere. There's still no mention of a permit given out. But how come the other 23 meetings, it gives a definite place and what it's for? And then all of a sudden his isn't. There's just an awful lot of things that just don't gel. I mean, it's almost like I said last time, it's shady.
Response to that? No. Anyone next?
Yeah, I live at 18607 Vermont Street. I'm a 30-year resident here in 2 days.
Could we have your name, please?
Eric Burgett. The article that Ryan put in the newspaper is pretty full of fallacies and untruths. One, where he lives, it is not a residential area. His property itself may be residentially zoned, but he is surrounded on all 4 sides by agricultural property, and he fails to mention that. I myself am zoned residentially and surrounded by agricultural also. I think this should just be made aware that he's falsifying or deceiving people by saying that he lives in a residential area. It makes it sound like we're living in Greyhawk, and we don't. I would say 30 to 40% of Vermont Street is agricultural, and he fails to mention that. And marijuana is a seed, cultivation, harvest, just like beans and corn. So the ODA may not have the verbiage yet because marijuana has only been legal in Ohio for a year, but I'm sure in the next year or so, the verbiage is going to change, and I want people to be aware of that.
Anyone else have some response or opinion? Nothing more?
Am I allowed to respond? Just since they call me out.
Well, I'd like to just continue on, see if we have anybody else that wants to speak.
Yeah, I just got a couple questions.
Name, please?
Robert Wineski, 21847. You said it lowers property values. When I'm lying, couldn't find the data you're saying. You mentioned it here, I thought you were going to bring data.
I have anything you want to see.
Where's the statistics that lowers property values? Also, for the state, with the medical marijuana cultivation,
follow state law, you have to follow what their guidelines are. Mr. Farkas may not be on the business license, but I know it has to be an LLC. As far as medical marijuana helping people, you're a nurse, good for you. I'm retired corrections. 8 of the original tactical response team members I was with, 6 of them smoked the bowl. I got a buddy who would be dead if it wasn't for medical marijuana. So, you said that's not an issue? Kinda is. There's a lot of pros to it. I don't have a problem. It's cultivated. It's gotta be logged. It's gotta be weighed. It's gotta be under state regulation, just like liquor and that. So, unless you can ban drunk driving, ban the opioid epidemic here, you're always going to have people abuse things. You're not going to legislate evil on people.
Mr. Gardner, am I just going to have to sit here and listen to people coming after me?
I'm trying to give everybody an opportunity to respond first, Ryan, please. Bill?
The board, William King, Webster. Is the board in on this discussion? I haven't heard anything from you guys. Just rubbing your chin and.
Well, I'm trying to give everybody an opportunity to give their opinion, and
But you don't answer the questions when they're asked to you.
well, we'll be here a long time if we try to get through that. I want to respond afterwards, please. Anyone else? Someone in the back, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Frankie Renix, I live on Vermont Street. I'm not gonna get into all those things that everybody was bringing up, but I would like to know why the board did not have the foresight to address this before it became an issue. The surrounding townships did, and they took care of it, and they don't have the problem, so why didn't you handle that before it became a problem?
We had the opportunity to either put a stop to it, pass an ordinance, and ban it, or to allow it. And as we reviewed the whole situation with it, it was deemed as an agricultural operation, and that's what we based a big part of our decision on. And that has come down from the prosecutor's office, and we have been in constant contact with him since this has come up again to try to review everything. And at this point in time, folks, we have put a 6-month moratorium on any other facilities, licensing, anything else that has to do with the marijuana cultivation within the township. And we're going to continue to gather all the facts and proceed, from there. But we're accepting comments, and we're going to review everything we have before us.
When you said that you gathered information and considered all this, did you take input did you ask for input from the surrounding residents?
Not at that time. We discussed it when we were at our meetings, and to mention the meetings aren't verbatim. We don't record those meetings, and there were times when we had mentioned this pending, possibility for an ordinance to come up and how we were going to view it. Like I said, we don't have a transcript of every meeting, but it did get discussed.
I often look at the Rural Urban, and I know for one, Enfield Township, they have a pretty thorough entry after every township meeting. And they list names and issues and what was decided and how it was voted on. And I wish we could see something like that for every meeting that we have here at Training.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Connie Stalky. I live at 18728 Vermont Street. And on the state of Ohio Medical Board website, there's all the information about the licenses and how it's going to go about for physicians to already start registering to be able to recommend medical marijuana. So if anybody wants that information, it's on there. They're already accepting applications from physicians who want to start to apply to prescribe this. And there's a lot of information on that website. So this isn't something that's still illegal in the state of Ohio. This is going to come about, and it's being done through the Ohio State Medical Board. They have a seal already made up for the program. And I've been working in emergency medicine for 30 years myself. And so there's 2 sides to every story. So that's website to go to if you're interested in seeing what the state of Ohio and the medical board is doing.
Could you say that again, the website information?
The Ohio State Medical Board
Okay.
website. Marijuana has actually been available in the state of Ohio for many years in pill form called Marinol. Something I've been using for years. This is just another form of marijuana that's starting to come out. But that's been available for patients for many years in this state already in pill form for the treatment of various things, particularly for cachexia, which is weight loss caused by AIDS and cancer.
I'd just like to kind of respond to that. I don't think that's the issue. I don't think we're all saying that marijuana doesn't have some good uses on the medical field. I think that we're getting off the point. That's not the issue. The licensing is the issue here for this particular facility.
I'm on 18970 Vermont Street, Roy Roberts. I went on the website when all this was coming out, so I already kind of knew what was going on. I went on the website like this lady, and it actually describes the facilities. They have to have a security guard for, 24/7. They're actually surrounded by a fence, and actually the fence will have wire fence like we did on Grafton State Farm. Inside, it shows you pictures of the inside. You could go to California, which has approved it to be a agricultural product. It takes a couple years to do that, to get everybody up and running, and rules, regulations, dosages, and all that stuff. And on the website, it also includes, you can see where they have to put a lot of money into your lights. The people that come in actually have swatches. So one person does one thing and they have to swipe their card in order to do that. Then they are not allowed to go to the next section. You have to have another card to swipe back. So it's very, very regular. And there's going to be a cop, surrounding it. So it's, I agree with that lady too. It's a shame it wasn't brought out so everybody was aware of it. They could go onto the website. And since it's so new to Ohio, and obviously they call it the devil's lettuce because everybody's so scared of it. But I mean, if you remember Prohibition and everything like that, things are going to change, and it's, in California, they already have row crops. The only thing that I agree with some of the people here, I think the way it was presented, and minutes should be, for LaGrange Township, should be accessed onto the website, because I tried to do that and I didn't see any.
All our minutes are put on.
They're on there.
The minutes that are.
But some of you, yeah,
The
they're
minutes
not
that are
specific.
approved tonight.
Yeah, whoever does it, you have to do keynotes, and you have to really kind of, even if it's short and sweet, at least to two-digit what you actually zone in on. So whether the secretary or somebody maybe needs to do a PowerPoint presentation, go to school or something, that would probably be helpful. I mean, I used to do it for Cleveland Clinic,
They're not
so.
transcripts. Actually, the only thing that has to be put in the minutes is voting. I mean, it's nice to put a mention in that if, something was discussed.
But I agree with her. I'm rural urban. You have other people that, like Eaton Township, you can read all their minutes and everything that was discussed.
Our minutes are online. The minutes that they approved tonight, the last meeting minutes, will be on the website within 2 days.
But see, we didn't see, like I agree with some of the people, you didn't see it to really, that's why everybody kind of because this gentleman brought it up, nobody was aware of it. And I think what she said. And not everybody has website access. I don't know what to say. But like I say, California's passed it, so it's agricultural. I don't mean to demean anybody, whatever does the minutes. I don't mean to, it's just the way it's done. I think if you could kind of clear that up a little bit in the future, I think a lot of people would, just see what's going on in the township and stuff.
We'll try to enhance
it's very, informative for people. People like that.
Okay.
Any political agenda, anybody likes it. Even if it's just a quick, maybe 10 sentences. you know, with keynotes, and that's it. That's all I
Okay.
can say.
Thank you, Gloria.
I got one more.
Ms.
Something
Bowen?
quick. As Mrs. Urich said, everybody's missing the point here. We're not saying that it's a bad thing. There are 24 other facilities in the state of Ohio that's going to be growing it. 23 are which are in a commercial zone property. Do you guys want to have something that looks like the Grafton Correctional place across from your house? Well, it's going to be across from my house. Laugh, Roberta.
I'm laughing.
Yes, you are.
Well, let's try to keep it under control. Mrs. Pulling, it was explained to us the type of facility that was gonna be there and the state oversight that was going to be, you know, administered on this facility. And when you think about it, it's gonna be totally enclosed. Everything's gonna be inside. It's gonna look like another farm building out there essentially, other than that there's going to be a fence around it. And when we realized how much oversight the state was going to have in this facility, we felt as though, and especially with checking with the prosecutor on this, that it was the agricultural end of that was not going to be a burden on anyone or going to diminish the property around there.
If in fact it is an agricultural entity, a business, I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with it. Nobody knows. And from whatever I've seen and heard, it's going more towards a commercial business and not a residential business. And that is yet to be determined, I guess, by the state, because we have not heard. I mean, Ryan said it.
All I can say is I have Mr. Mark Nye, who's the head of the Ohio Medical Marijuana Program, on voice recording stating it's not a medical, not an agricultural crop. Mr. Tim Diedrich, I have email correspondence that are available to be read. He's the director of the Ohio Department of Agriculture. And Mr. Dustin Calhoun is the legal representative for the Ohio Department of Ag. And the Ohio Department of Agricultural stance is that they're deferring to the Ohio Medical Marijuana Board. They're not taking a position in it, which is kind of a little, they're not saying it is, they're not saying it isn't. But the head of the Ohio Marijuana Program, did you guys call him with the number I gave you by chance?
Vince was in contact. Unfortunately, our zoning inspector isn't here tonight. He's moving his family out of state, so he's not here. But he had contacted Mark Nye.
And did he fill you in as to what he said?
I don't have everything that he said, but Vince directed that information from Mr. Nye to Jerry Ennis and Tom Mangan down at the prosecutor's office. And Jerry and Tom have both come back with their opinion to us that this falls into agricultural, guidelines. So once again, we have varying opinions here, and that's why we put a moratorium on, because you brought up some good points, and we listened to those, and I wanted to research that. Putting that moratorium on was going to give us time to confirm some of these things and to see if we could sort it all out. And that's the best we can do right now. We're under that period right now, and we're trying to do as much fact finding as we can. And so, at this point in time, I don't know that there's much more we can do. We hope to get together with our zoning board and talk about this as we move forward. But, our zoning inspector's out of town right now, so I'm not going to set up any specific meetings yet.
Folks, one of the issues that everyone seems to keep bringing back is what you perceive as being a lack of discussion and information sharing regarding this agricultural crop as we were told that it would be viewed as. I don't know, has it been 6 years, 7 years, how long? We have always stated, when we remind everybody at every meeting, we have a work session the first Monday of every month. They usually start about 3 o'clock. There are no minutes taken in these meetings because no action is taken in these work sessions. These work sessions allow us to get into greater detail on the many different issues that come before the township. That will include this issue, it includes fire and EMS protection, it includes the way we're trying to raise funds or find a way so that we can staff EMS protection on a 24-hour basis. Those things where we pull all these issues apart and look at the numbers and do more fact-finding, that happens the first Monday of every month in this building, and it's usually, what, 3 o'clock or 3:30, that we have those. And they're open to the public. We mention this when we schedule them at every meeting. You're more than welcome to come to those. We just don't take minutes in those meetings because we don't take any action. But a lot of that discussion that you feel was missing probably is happening in those work sessions.
Could you think of moving that time back a little? A lot of people work. You can't make it at 3:30. You know, I mean, it seems like it's a convenient time for you, for people not to show up.
Well,
Do you let anybody know what you're going to discuss? In other words, let's say, I don't know when the next 3 o'clock meeting is going to be, whenever it is. What's the agenda? Do you have an agenda so that we can review it and say, hey, I'd like to.
We don't usually have an agenda, but we will have a number of issues that we will be talking about. Whatever it's going to be, probably right now we've been working on, last couple meetings was working on fire and EMS, figuring out how budgetarily we can find a way to, first of all, the levy issue and the percentages we were going to have in order to support a 24-hour staffing of that department. Those kind of things are what we usually look at. And while it's not a set issue, anything that's pending that's just come up in between our meeting sessions, we use that one meeting a month to get a little more in-depth in. But I don't work the regular hours either, so it's hard.
To ask people to come to these meetings, we have to know if there's something going to be discussed that we care about. I mean, I'm not saying I don't care about anything. I've lived here since 1980, and I love LaGrange Township. I love the area, I like the character of it. I just think in this instance that even though it's agricultural in California does a lot of things that we don't look fondly of here in Ohio.
That's true.
And I'm not saying it's not agricultural or won't be soon. It might be. But the character of this building, I didn't know there's going to be an armed, I assume it's an armed guard 24 hours a day. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if it goes to 9,000 square feet, is it still just one? I'm kind of asking a lot.
Yeah, one center of,
You're going to have uniformed guards?
cameras, we have, vibration sensors on the fence, that'll be barbed wire.
Yeah.
Vibration sensors.
I just think it would have gone a lot better had people been informed. And let me ask one other question, as long as I'm badgering you folks. Did you go to any other surrounding townships and ask why they passed an ordinance against it? When you are going just the opposite direction, you're considering additional licenses.
Not additional licenses, Al, there's only 24 in the street, no additional license. And they're not issued by the township, they're issued by the state.
But they're considering, you would consider more after the moratorium, right?
We're doing some fact finding now. There is no decision being made on whether we will or will not totally ban or define areas or anything else. There's all types of options on the table as we move ahead, and that's why we put the moratorium on, so we can find all the facts we possibly can and move on. And believe me, folks, it does help to have people here to express their concerns.
Well, we
no way do I want to diminish
about
that.
something we care about. I mean, that's why we pay you guys and girls, is to take care of business. And as far as I'm concerned, you've been doing a bang-up job of it for decades. This is the first time.
Got a little hiccup here, huh? Is that what you're saying?
Can I ask you to quickly identify yourselves?
Doug Gardner.
Gary Burnett.
Okay.
Roberta Moore.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't come to enough meetings.
I'm a fiscal officer, they're the trustees.
I'm sorry?
I just do money, they make the decision.
Oh, okay. But you post on Facebook.
Yeah, him and him and him, yeah.
Okay. And you had this subject on Facebook when?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay, and I'm not trying to make a big issue of that. I think that the two things that I'm concerned about here, and the reason I came is nobody knew about it, and okay, it's agricultural, If it is, I'm not sure it is or isn't, then there's no variance needed, there's no, it could be considered routine. But I really think with all the back and forth on this issue, not just marijuana, but the whole, if you take the whole thing, it should have been publicized, in my opinion, more than it was. And maybe everybody would have, after they knew about all the details, they would have said, okay, let's do it. But let me ask, down the road, does it financially benefit the township, or could it?
Probably, just about like any other farming operation would.
So
as
not
far as-
necessarily, you're not gonna get a
It's not
cut
like,
of the
not that I'm aware of a
sales
big
or
bang
anything
for the
like
buck or anything like that, but
Yeah.
what it may do is it may allow a farmer to continue his farming operation. It may allow someone to be able to have an opportunity to be financially viable in, this area. And I look at this area, I grew up here too, as a rural area, and want to see that rural atmosphere continue. And as the farms continue to disappear and go into housing or whatever else they may be, whether they're shopping centers or anything else, you lose that rural atmosphere. And I did not go to other townships, but I did read our Township Association magazines that come out and try to get as informed as I could on this issue. And that's how I viewed that, as part of an agricultural operation. And, it's tough to be a farmer anymore. And I'm not a farmer, but I recognize what's going on in that industry too.
Yeah. Okay. A friend of mine in Wichita, I told her about it. She has a ranch. She said, could be worse, could be a chicken.
I just have a one-sentence statement real quick.
Yes, Ryan, go ahead.
I just want to make sure everybody's clear too. Whether this is an agricultural crop or not, it makes no difference. The township, under Ohio Revised Code 3796.129, gives the township the power to ban and or limit these operations at any given time. That means 6 months ago, it means a year from now. There's no time on that. So, from what I'm hearing, there's really no financial benefit to the township. We're going to help one farmer potentially continue, and we're going to potentially have negative effects with the neighboring residents, property value, odor, safety. I mean, there's an armed guard at that facility, but when my wife and 3 little kids are playing out at the road, there's not an armed guard watching them. So I don't really see the benefit, which is why I'm sure the other surrounding communities protected their residents and blocked it. I don't understand why that wasn't done here. And you still have the right to, agricultural or not. And I'm sure your attorney would agree with that.
Yes, we realize that, and that's what part of this moratorium was about, Ryan, so that we could get all the facts down and take a look at this whole issue, get the input from the community, get some comment back, and make some decisions within that time period.